Fun Convention TV and Florida United Numismatists welcome you to a glimpse of the Fun Show in Orlando, Florida. Join us as we discover all that the Fun Show has to offer in coin tales from the Bourse floor. Fun Convention TV welcomes Carol Bastable, also known as Miss Love Token, of the Love Token Society, to the Fun Show. What is a love token?
There's a general definition of a love token. It's a coin of the realm, which means it's made by a country, and it's not a metal or a token, and it's been engraved by hand. It can't be machine engraved, it can't be made by a little diamond stylus like they do on trophy plaques that just pushes the metal around. So it's got two things. It has to be on a coin, and it has to be a coin of the realm. Now you can get some love tokens that are engraved on both sides. And then it becomes, well, what was it on? Was it on a coin? It's round, it looks like a coin. The key thing, and with American coins, the reeded edge. That gives us an indication. If it has a reeded edge, and the dime's the most common of what they engraved them on, then we presume that it is in fact a coin.
And when were they made?
A lot of people pin them to the Victorian period, and in this country, that was the time period. They started around the Civil War, and they went up till the Columbian Exposition in popularity, 1892, 1893. But they did continue on a little bit further into the 1900s, and then there was a Coin Mutilation Act that kind of put an end to the coins in this country. But even before that, there was a waning popularity in love tokens. Silver had become a little less valuable, and the wealthy thought wearing silver jewelry was déclassé, and so they switched more to gold. Those that couldn't afford gold had gold overlay, gold washed. And there are other factors too, and it's more deducing why they went out of popularity. Another one that I believe was that the invention of photography. When photography came in, people started wearing lockets and carrying photos of other people, and they kind of switched from the engraved love token remembrances of people, and they switched to that. Now, love tokens actually go back further than the Victorian period, but you would have to go to other countries in Europe. Great Britain, they have them, but they don't call them love tokens per se. They call them engraved coins, and those would have been in the late 1600s and 1700s. But then there's speculation too that there are even some earlier taler type coins with engraving, Austrian and German, that could go back even earlier 1600s than the late 1600s in England. And then even though people think that love tokens died out, there was still resurgences of engraved coins during World War I and World War II. In World War I, they documented places that they were stationed, places they visited. They had unit numbers, military ID numbers on them. World War II, it went back to Sentimental. There's something called sweetheart jewelry, and that was jewelry that the loved ones at home wore in remembrances of their brothers, their husbands, their boyfriends abroad. And so it came back in the 40s, and fairly much with a vengeance, really. If you start collecting and specializing in it, you can locate the items. They're coming out of collections because a lot of our World War II veterans have been dying off. You find more that are just coin bracelets, but they're also engraved examples, and it's a topic really unto itself too.
And why were they made?
Yes, that was well before photography. Victorians were very sentimental.
As a keepsake or a romantic item.
Victorians were very sentimental, and they carried jewelry with locks of hair in them. There were also hand-painted portraits of people before there was photography. And the love tokens was a remembrance on an inexpensive level, pretty much for most people. It was a coin that had been engraved, most often with initials, which were the initials of the giver, and sometimes there were names, sometimes there were fancy pictures, but it was a remembrance of the giver. And that giver, originally people believed, the story is that it was a beau that gave a girl this coin, and it was almost like a promise ring, potentially, that he had interest in her. But it goes far beyond that. They were made for family members. There's some that are engraved mother, father, brother, sister. There are also ones bracelets. You'll see bracelets that are probably mother's bracelets that the children had made for the mothers, and you'll see a variety of names on those bracelets, both male and female, and it went far beyond the typical gift from the beau that people first associate with it.
And how did you come to collect them?
I stumbled on them. I had no idea about them, and I started dating a fellow who was interested in coins and just becoming a coin dealer. I wound up marrying and was in the business, and even after the marriage was over, remained active in the business in a club affiliation way and friends. And my collection, definitely collecting, not so much setting up being a dealer selling. And so when I first saw these love tokens, I loved them. They were little miniature works of art on very small canvases, and I had had a background in fine art. I had a major in fine art and was actually just finishing up a master's in art education. And to me, it was combining both worlds, the coins and the art, and individually made art, because coins themselves are art. They're made by someone, they're designed by someone and struck, but they're more mass-produced. Love tokens, everyone is pretty much different. Even if you try to make a pair of earrings that match with the same design, because they're handmade, they're not machined, they're not going to be the same. And I like the uniqueness and never knowing what might appear next.
Do you have a favorite love token in your collection or a favorite design type that you collect?
I've pretty much collected it all, and part of that is for researching them too. I've done studies, population reports on some of them. I have some favorites. I can't peg it down to just one favorite. One of the early on coins I got was from the Central American Republic, and it was a dollar-size coin, and it has a design with moons, a moon and mountains, and someone had re-engraved it to a crescent moon, and it had the name Concha in the crescent moon. And I really liked that, the size of it, the age of the coin, and it was one of the first that got me started. But I have a whole lot of others. They're like children. I don't think you can pick a favorite.
Yeah. Well, let's take a look at what Miss Love Token brought us today. Tell me a bit about the pieces that you have on display.
Okay, well, I've brought a mix. I brought a special treat for you, really. I've brought photos that show the type of clothing at the time the people wore, and beyond that, they have examples of love token jewelry in these photos. The photos are actually rarer than the coins to find. And their first group, we have 3 gentlemen in this group, and you can see lapel pins. Men would wear lapel pins. Sometimes they would have a fraternal order on the lapel pin that they would wear. There were also ascots. This is an ascot, and that's probably something of an ascot too. I don't believe it's quite a tie. You can see by the high neck collar, it's not the regular kind of collar we wear today. And so these would have been fraternal order, most likely. You can't blow the picture up well enough to see it. Here we have a couple pins. They could have either been a stud, a stick pin that was on the ascot, or they could have been the stud on the lapel, the jacket lapel, or they could have put a pin on the ascot. This one is quite interesting. This is a English coin. It's a crown. It's large, about the size of a silver dollar. And of the English coins, they didn't do that much on the larger coins. You find more on the 3 pence, the 6 pence, and maybe the shilling size. And quite attractive border and initials. This one, again, this setting is a kind of setting that was made in England. And this, yes, it's an English coin. It's quite interesting. I'm going to try to open this up for you. This actually rotates.
Oh, that is interesting.
They can decide which side they want to wear up. Now this one has a Star of David on it, and phenomenally engraved background on this one. It's as nice as I've seen. I've seen a few on the smaller sizes with the Star of David, but in the spinning, rotating bezel, quite nice, attractive design. And then moving up, we have, this is a dime that's been enameled. We have one here from Uncle Milt. So he was a family member one. We have what's called a pictorial, and that's a picture. Landscapes and birds are the most common. The people, this is a person on the horse, it's got a rider, and people were quite rare on love tokens to find them. So that's a special one. This is a $1 gold piece, and this has the Capitol building on it. Pictorial gold is also very difficult to find with the pictures. Most often it'll be initials. Then I brought along a couple type coins here. This one looks like it's a dime till you turn it over, and that's a 3-cent nickel piece. And then I've brought another piece here that'll be a 2-cent nickel piece. So type coins, that's another interesting way to collect them. You can collect by topic, the picture type, the enamel. You can collect by coin denominations. You can collect by date. Some people have done date sets with dimes, and I started one with Indian head cents, which is pretty interesting and harder to find than the dimes. This one happens to be an Indian head cent, and this one says a penny. No, I had to move it. A penny for remembrance. And the ones with the sayings, they're a lot harder to find too. And when they get romantic, they get very special or souvenir type statements. And then we have another grandpa on here, and it has his last name, Grandpa Lightful. That one is on a Canadian quarter, and quite attractive with the additional drop on it. Often the pins are just one pin. And then we have one here. This is on a dime. It says hee hee. So that's another one that goes in similar, like a saying or a phrase, similar to the other. And then we're moving over. This is a woman wearing earrings. It's only showing one earring. I didn't bring any earrings with me. And then we're moving over into stick pins, and stick pins are quite fascinating. I only brought a couple types with me. Most people would expect to have the regular bar with the coin mounted, and this one's on an Indian head cent, which is a little different than the dime. And this one has a very fancy design on it. It's got initials, but it's got very fancy border background work. And that one's on the Liberty seated dime. So most people think of this type, and these are the most common type, but they vary. This one is especially nice. It's on this sword. This is probably something that would go through a man's ascot because it's very thick to go through clothing. Or a woman might wear lace at the neck and have it go through lace, but standard woven clothing it would work as well. Then we have the photos of the stick pins. There's one with a simple one coin stick pin, but it has the coin dangling versus the rigid mount ones that we looked at previously. Then we have a woman that has, this is a double stick pin. There's 2 pins in this that hook in, and there's a chain attached to both ends, and there's 3 coins on the chain, and that's much more unusual type. Then we have a woman that went a little bit overboard here because she's wearing 3 stick pins, and there's chains with the coins dangling from the chains. So this photo, that's a find. I'm just quite partial to that because to find 3 paired like that, very unusual. And then we have another style with a type of stick pin going across, and we have the chain, a drop chain with another one. And so these are fairly special stick pins. If we just saw one that didn't have the chain hooking through or the bar, and it was a single round coin with the pin bar going down into the clothing, we would think it might be a pin and not even know it was a stick pin. So these all illustrate, you can see that they do have the bars and they are stick pins. Then we have down here, we have a woman wearing what looks like a love token necklace, and to find a whole necklace is quite scarce. Bracelets were much more common, what they would put these items on. To the side here we have what could have been pendants, but they could have also come off of a charm bracelet. They're in very good condition. They haven't been banged around, so there's a chance they were just single pendants as opposed to the photo, which is a whole string chain made up of what looks to be love tokens. And then moving along to the next photo, we have a bracelet. You can see the coins on the bracelet part. And bracelets vary in configuration quite a bit. It was the most common form to be put into jewelry. This one seems to have a thin wire that they're kind of wrapped around and strung on. This is a tubular bracelet. There were also ones that were flat sheet metal bracelets, and the sheet metal was engraved and as decorative as the coins. This one has some wonderful crest shield work on some of these coins, which would put it in the pictorial category, which is favored. And then we have, moving along, we have an inline kind of construction, and this one was designed to have drops hanging from it. So you can see there are some that have maybe come loose or been taken apart for some reason over time, but there's some really nice pictorials on this one. There's a horse, there's a saddle. Saddle is not a common theme whatsoever. And this little soldier guy with the 1776 date, it's a rare type. And this is unusual. There's a little leg, a stocking, and a mitten, and then there's someone with some little knitting needles and yarn, and that's special too. And a wheel. You can look at these all day long, but we'll move along. We'll try to move along. We have another inline construction. This one has all the drops on it, and then there's a little dangle that goes off to the side, a hanging charm. Another inline. This one has 2 jump rings, which is better secureness and stability so the coins don't twist around on your arm. Chains hanging with some coins on them. This had all S's, so it's hard to say who gifted it. If it was just made for someone and that was the family last name and they wanted it just representing their name, that's a question and a curiosity. We'll never know because these are over 100 years ago. Then moving along, we have a gentleman here who has a little watch fob hanging from his chain, a coin, presumably love token. And I've put a watch fob to the side here. This has more coins on it, but there's a nice little sailboat pictorial on that one. So the men wore them on the lapel, the ascot, or as the watch chains. There are also cufflinks. I've been unable to find a photo showing cufflinks. Quite often the way the arm is turned, you won't really have a chance of seeing the back of the arm, or a lot of photos are just portraits, and it's very hard to find a bracelet one or a cufflink one. And then we have a woman moving over into pins. This is called a triangle pin. And it's a row of coins, and then it diminishes in the number of coins, and it makes a triangle shape. And I've brought in a version of a triangle pin, but it's shaped more unusually. This isn't a design you'll see. It may be unique, it may not be. Even the triangle pins are very difficult to find. And then we have a woman wearing a bar pin with 3 coins soldered together. I've brought in a small version of a bar pin with 2 coins and then a little central engraved area. And the last photo is another bar pin, and that looks to be about 4 or 5 coins on that one. And hanging from it are dangles of coins, much like the charm bracelets had the dangles. And that is an unusual type too. The more coins were on something, the more expensive it would be to make it too, and more subjects to engrave. But they were very sentimental, and so they would wear these and they would remember the givers. And that's the story of love tokens.
I want to thank you very much for taking your time out to speak with Fun Convention TV. I've learned a lot about love tokens, and we really appreciate your time.
Oh, thank you.
Fun Facts Fast. You've been watching Fun Convention TV. Visit Fun Forums for fun show updates, videos, articles, photos, and more. Fun Forums, it just makes sense. This video is the property of Fun, Florida United Numismatist. Re-editing or use without prior consent is strictly prohibited.